Welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you're getting into the holiday spirit because today we're going to be crocheting a larger version of our Christmas tree granny square. Previously, I had shared a 4-round version of said granny square, but this larger one is 6 rounds. And these 6 rounds are going to measure 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. In order to get these measurements, I'm using worsted weight yarn and a 4.5mm crochet hook. Now, if you've already followed along with the small Christmas tree granny square tutorial, then you already know the beginning because this begins just like a regular granny square. It's just that we're gonna be changing colors to form the shape of our Christmas tree. If you like the look of this granny square, then at the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing a project idea, and then later on next week, we're going to have another project that we can complete with this large granny square. Okay, in order to begin our granny square, I'm going to be using a green worsted weight yarn because it's going to be in the Christmas tree color, and I'm going to be making a magic loop or a magic knot. And I'm going to chain one to secure. Into this magic loop, I am going to be making a stacked single crochet. This stacked single crochet replaces our initial double crochet. After completing the stacked double crochet, we're going to make 2 more double crochets into the ring to complete our granny stitch. Once I've got these 3 double crochet, which count as a granny stitch, I am going to be chaining 2, and I'm going to be making another granny stitch in the circle. After completing this granny stitch, once again, we are going to chain 2 and make another granny stitch. We now have 3 granny stitches. We're going to chain 2 again, and we're going to start our 4th granny stitch. We now have 4 granny stitches and 3 chain 2 spaces in this circle. So we're going to make our last chain space so we can close the round. In order to do that, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to do a single crochet into that first stitch that we made. By doing this single crochet to close the round, we are perfectly positioned to start our granny square in the corner. So again, we're doing a single crochet into that first stitch. And that's how we close the round and position ourselves to start round 2 in the corner space. For round 2, we're going to insert our hook into the space created by making the single crochet. And we are going to start with a stacked single crochet. So again, we insert our hook into the space created by the single crochet and we make a stacked single crochet. This will count as our first double crochet. Next, we're going to do 2 double crochets into the same space to complete a granny stitch. For the remainder of round 2, we are going to be working granny corners. To do this, we are going to make 2 granny stitches separated by chain 2s into our chain 2 spaces. So this is our first granny stitch in the chain 2 space. Now we are going to chain 2, and we're going to make another granny stitch in the same chain 2 space. And this is our completed granny corner. Now we are going to make another granny corner in the next chain 2 space. So remember that a granny corner is 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 2. This is the first granny stitch complete. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to make another granny stitch in the same chain 2 space. Continue by making a granny corner into the next chain 2 space. Once we complete this granny corner, it's going to be time to finish the half granny corner that we made at the beginning of our round 2. As I said in the last corner space, we already have a granny stitch, right? So what we're going to do now is that we're going to make a granny stitch. Next, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to close the round by working a single crochet into the first stitch. So that would be the stacked single crochet that we made. Now for round 3, we are going to grab our color 2 and keep it off to the side because this is the round where we start adding the second color. We're going to begin round 3 by working a stacked single crochet into the space and then working 2 more double crochet to complete what is essentially our half granny corner. Now the repeat for round 3 is going to be essentially work a granny corner in the chain 2 spaces and work granny stitches between the stitches. So right now we are going to work a granny stitch between these 2 granny stitches, and we're going to work it in color 1. After we complete this granny stitch, we are going to be approaching a granny corner, right? Now in this granny corner, we are going to work the first granny stitch in color 1. But then before finishing the stitch, we're going to change color, or you can change color after you complete the stitch like I'm going to be doing. I already explained this in the first granny square tutorial, but we're inserting our hook into the top of the stitch. So if we look closely, we're inserting our hook into what would be the front loop of the double crochet and into the loop below that. And we are putting our yarn color 1 forward. We're picking up color 2, and we're simply picking it up and passing it through the 2 loops that are on our hook. Okay, now we move color 1 to the back of our work and we pull it out. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2. Mean we're supposed to chain 2 with color 2, and we're going to complete a granny stitch. Okay, and after we complete the granny stitch, we're going to switch our colors back to color 1 so that we can continue working our round in color 1, but we are going to be carrying color 2 behind the work because we're going to need it again to end the round. Apologies, I ran out of space and had to empty my phone, but The only thing we did was switch our color. So as I mentioned, now we're going to continue our round with color 1. And remember, for round 3, we are making a granny stitch between the granny stitches and then granny corners into the chain 2 space. With the added spice in this round that we are carrying color 2 behind our work. Okay, so now I'm working a granny stitch between the granny stitches, as I said. And now we are going to work a granny corner. So remember that a granny corner is 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 2 space. And this time I will remember the chain 2 space between my granny stitches. We'll meet you back here when it is time to complete that initial granny corner that we made at the very beginning. Okay, so I've worked my last granny stitch before the granny corner that we're going to complete. So now I'm going to change color. Pick up my color 2. Put my color 1 to the back of the work. And we're going to work a granny stitch in that initial corner space. Remember that we're going to end this round by working a chain of 1 and then a single crochet into the first stitch. Round 4, we're going to make a stacked single crochet into the corner. And then we're going to follow it up with 2 double crochets so that we can complete our initial granny stitch. Remember to change color before completing the last the last double crochet, because now we're going to work 2 granny stitches in color 1. Color 1 for me is the green yarn, so I'm picking up that green yarn. And now, as I said, I'm going to work 2 granny stitches in color 1. For this round, we're going to work granny stitches between the stitches of the previous round and granny corners in the chain 2 spaces. Okay, there's our first granny stitch in color 1 complete. Now we're going to complete our second granny stitch in color 1. After completing the last double crochet of this granny stitch, we are going to change color once again to color 2. And now we are going to work a granny corner in the chain 2 space. This is the moment that I realized that I forgot to do a chain 2 space, here at least. But it's okay, we're pulling through by simply working our granny corner into the space between the 2 granny stitches. Let's compare with the completed granny square to see where we're at. So we've just completed these two granny stitches and the granny corner in color 2. So now we're going to complete two more granny stitches in color 2. So these two stitches in color 2. Okay, so again, we're going to complete two granny stitches in color 2, but remember that we're carrying color 1 in the back of the work. I will meet you back here after I've completed these two granny stitches. After completing two granny stitches in color 2, we're going to switch back to color 1 so that we can complete our granny corner in color 1. So remember that the granny corner is two granny stitches separated by chain 2 spaces. From this granny corner to the next granny corner, we're going to be working with color 1. So I will meet you back here after I've completed all these stitches in color 1 so that we can switch colors and end our round with color 2. This is what we have up till now, and as I said, we've completed all the bottom part of our granny square with color 1. So now I'm going to switch out my color 1 for my color 2 in that last double crochet of the granny stitch. And we're going to complete 3 granny stitches using color 2. Two of those granny stitches will go between the stitches, and the last of that granny stitch will go in the initial corner. Now we've reached the initial corner where we just need to do one more granny stitch, and then we will complete the corner with a chain of 1 and doing a single crochet into the first stitch. We've closed off round 4 and now we're ready to begin round 5. We begin round 5 just like we've begun every other round by doing a stacked single crochet in the space created by joining with a single crochet. And you know that the stacked single crochet is the beginning of a granny stitch. So after completing this, we are going to do 2 more double crochets into the same space. We're also going to be completing the next granny stitch in the color 2. Remember to carry color 1 in the back of your work. When we've completed this second granny stitch in the color 2, we're going to switch yarns. So we're going to go from color 2, which is like a pale mushroom pink, I guess, to color 1, which is the green yarn. Now we're going to complete one stitch, one granny stitch in the color green. And we're going to be switching back to color 2. We're going to complete our next granny stitch and our granny corner in color 2. Next, we're going to complete 3 more granny stitches in color 2. So this is 1, 2, and 3 in right here. I'll see you there. Right, we've just completed 3 granny stitches in color 2. And now we are going to start our next granny corner with color 2. As we complete the third double crochet of the granny stitch, we're going to switch back to color 1 so that we can do our chains and the last granny stitch of this corner in color 1. Now we're going to continue working 3 granny stitches in color 1. Once we complete the third granny stitch, we're going to be starting our corner. Now we're going to start the next granny corner with color 1. But as we complete the third double crochet of this granny stitch, we're going to switch to color 2, and we're going to complete the granny corner with color 2. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to complete the granny corner with this color 2. So now all the stitches that are left for this round 5, we're going to complete them with color 2. So if you want, you can cut color 1 right here. I'm actually going to keep carrying it in the back so I can weave over it. Continue working your granny stitches until we reach that initial chain 2 space. Okay, and now we are going to work the last granny stitch in that initial chain space. And we're going to be closing off round 5 by doing a chain of 1 and then working a single crochet into that first stitch. Now we're ready to begin round 6, and round 6 is the last round of our granny square, and we're only going to work it using color 2. For this round, the repeat is going to be that in the chain spaces, we're going to be doing granny corners, and between each granny stitch, we're going to be placing a granny stitch. To close off round 6, after we finish that last granny stitch, we're actually going to do a chain of 2. Okay, so this time we're not closing the round with a single crochet. We're doing a chain of 2, and we are slip stitching to that first stitch to join in the round. Now we're ready to cut yarn and fasten off. And there we have it, the larger Christmas tree granny square. I think it's beautiful, but you let me know what you think. So we do have a design and tutorial in the works for a project that uses this larger granny square, but before we can begin making that, we need to learn how to crochet a granny triangle, and that is an isosceles granny triangle. That will be next week's video, but if you need a little project to tide you over, I got you. You're gonna go into your stash, you're gonna get 3 strands of worsted weight yarn or super bulky weight yarn and some faux fur, a 9mm crochet hook. You're gonna crochet this granny square that we just talked about, and with it, you're gonna create this mixed media cushion because the back, we've done an envelope seam with some fabric, and then we also went around the fabric with some crochet so that we could tie it all together and make a super cute, fluffy, and cuddly Christmas cushion. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's tutorial. I will see you next time.